their existence in this league was something that caused a lot of consternation for some of these Eastern teams. Like I've heard athletic administration officials at places like Middle Tennessee and Old Dominion, no disrespect to you or your fan base, saying like, we can't sell tickets to UTEP games because nobody in the Tidewater in Virginia cares about UTEP. And now I think that problem is going to be even more clear. UTEP is going to be close to 900 miles away right now from their closest conference opponent. And if you're living in El Paso, chances are you don't know anybody that went to Louisiana Tech. You don't know anybody that went to Middle Tennessee State. You don't have that same interpersonal relationship. And now you have a Conference USA that's looking like a handful of schools around Appalachia, a school in Miami, and a school in West Texas. And I don't know how sustainable that is right now. If it were me, and listen, this is just a take from the cheap seats, right?
Listen, no, I want you to say, if you're UTEP, what are you doing?
If I'm UTEP, I sit down here with my major donors. I sit down here with my major stakeholders and say, how sustainable would it be for us to be an independent program for 4 years and then join the WAC? It's not really a state secret that the WAC would like, most institutions in the WAC would like to become FBS football playing members. And I think a world in 2030 where UTEP is playing an FBS Sam Houston State, an FBS Abilene Christian, New Mexico State just down the road, and that geography at the FBS level, that's going to be easier and more sustainable than schlepping to Virginia and Tennessee and Kentucky, a couple of times a year. And I would look to see, can we supplement that with taking on extra bye games or changing our schedule, because it's not like you're competing for the college football playoff anyway. And rather than kind of playing out the string here at a conference that everybody acknowledges doesn't really make sense anymore.
That's an interesting point that you raised too, because a lot of people would love, obviously, the Mountain West to take UTEP on geographically, but what's holding, I think, and what would you say is holding the Mountain West back the most from UTEP?
I don't think there's really anything significant in it for the Mountain West at this point. There is a reason for you to potentially dilute your television shares, your television revenue, if you get a chance to play more games in the Central Time Zone and more chance to get exposure in front of not just recruits, but students in Houston and the Metroplex. Because some of these schools in the Mountain West, like Wyoming, their enrollment's declining. They're trying to recruit more out-of-state students. If you bring in UTEP, you're not getting Central Time Zone exposure, and you're not really getting exposure into a metropolitan area where you're going to be able to export college students the same way. And then by adding them, because UTEP struggled on the field and because their metropolitan area isn't as attractive as some of these other ones, you're not making any more money. So the UTEP certainly benefits, but it's hard to really argue how Utah State benefits or how Fresno State benefits from that arrangement right now.
You think Air Force is going to the American as well?
No, I mean, they made that very clear last week that both Air Force, Colorado State have decided to remain part of the Mountain West Conference. And based on what we're hearing as of today, I would expect the Mountain West Conference to not expand at all and remain the same. Now, if in 2 years, Boise State or San Diego State go to the Big 12, that changes the conversation here a little bit. But for right now, I think that league stands pat.